Okay, this is my application for educational psychology. This is my philosophy of teaching. My philosophy is to present students with information and knowledge needed for life skills, to have a positive learning environment that nurtures each individual student regardless of any differences, to aid students in processing information and mentally organizing information toward better grasping a concept and reaching mastery, to provide students the ability and the opportunity to reach higher thinking in order to think outside of the box. First, I'm going to go over psychology as a science. The 4 terms I decided to use for psychology as a science is learning curve, fixation, learning, and forgetting. The learning curve is a way to evaluate the learning process. Fixation is little or no growth. And learning is the act or process of acquiring knowledge or skill. Forgetting is the act of failing to remember. Here is how all these terms relate together. Learning, fixation, and forgetting are all part of the learning curve. A student must learn before they can forget what they learned. And then fixation can happen at any time. A student can fixate after a period of learning or after a period of forgetting. And then this is how psychology as a science relates to my personal philosophy of teaching. Forgetting and fixation most of the time occur during periods of break, such as summer vacation. Learning will occur in the classroom or any other place that information is being presented. A teacher needs to be aware if a student is not learning during a period of time when they should be. This problem would need to be addressed. As a teacher, it is important to know how the learning curve works and where each student as an individual falls on the learning curve in order to better reach the needs of each individual student. Here's my question for psychology as a science. What are some ways that teachers would be able to identify where the students are at on the learning curve? My answer to this question is by using assessments. By taking tests, exams, or any other form of evaluation, the teacher will be able to see if a student is learning or fixating. Forgetting would be visible when a student is given the same exam for the second time and they show no improvement or their score declines. I will next move on to modeling. The 4 terms I chose for modeling are peer model, motivation, vicarious reward, and vicarious punishment. A peer model is an individual of the same age, sex, ethnicity, or coolness or experience who is observed in person. Peer modeling is useful for motivation. Motivation is an inner state that energizes, directs, and sustains behavior. Vicarious reward is a response that increases in frequency when another person is observed being rewarded for that response. Vicarious punishment is a response that decreases in frequency when another person is observed being punished. Here's how all these terms go together. Peer models are used to motivate individuals. Individuals are motivated to increase their behavior through vicarious reward, and individuals are motivated to decrease their behavior through vicarious punishment. Here's how the terms that I used for modeling relate to my own personal philosophy of teaching. I believe that one of the biggest motivations for students' behavior in the classroom is their peers, which is why peer modeling is going to be key in my classroom. I'm going to give praise for participating in class discussions, and through vicarious reward, it is very likely that other students, especially students who want attention, will become motivated to be active participants in class discussions. As a teacher, I'm going to give ample opportunities for reward or outstanding behavior, good grades, and helping hands. These rewards will serve as incentives for other students to get the same reward. And then for misbehavior, I'm going to assign time after school. Students will see that their peers were being punished and will become motivated to not misbehave due to the punishments that their classmates received. And that is how I would use vicarious punishment. My question for modeling is, do you think that vicarious punishment would ever be a bad thing and lead to undesired behaviors? The answer is yes. If a student did not like publicized attention, for example, and the reward for good behavior was public praise in front of the class, there would be absolutely no motivation for the student to behave well in fear of receiving publicized attention. Teachers need to be aware of how and when they use vicarious reward or vicarious punishment and really think about how behaviors will end up. My next section is on development. My terms for development are zone of proximal development, otherwise known as ZPD, scaffolding, actual developmental level, and level of potential development. A student's zone of proximal development is the range of tasks that a learner can perform with the help and guidance of others, but cannot yet perform independently. Scaffolding is the support mechanism that helps a learner successfully perform a task within his or her zone of proximal development. An actual developmental level is the upper limit of tasks that a learner can successfully perform independently. And then finally, the level of potential development is the upper limit of tasks that a learner can successfully perform with the assistance or a more competent individual. Here's how all of these terms relate together. Within a student's ZPD, there is the student's actual developmental level and the potential level of development. The actual developmental level comes directly before the ZPD, and the ZPD is where the scaffolding takes place. And then right at the very top of a student's ZPD is their level of potential development. Here's how these terms relate to my own personal philosophy of teaching. Because I'm going to be an FCS teacher, there are going to be a lot of classes where I will have labs. In the cooking and sewing labs, it will be extremely important to look at the student's ZPD in order to provide them with the right amount of help. It will also be important to know where the student's actual developmental level and their level of potential development is. Students in these classes, just as in any other class, will have a different ZPD. One of the best ways, I think, to help students master tasks in their ZPD would be to use scaffolding. My question for the development section is, what is another method that could be used instead of scaffolding to successfully complete a task? The answer is, because a teacher cannot be with every student at every single moment, modeling also would be an effective use. Using expert as well as peer modeling will help increase the ability and motivation for students to complete a given task and move on to a more challenging task. Here's a look at my concept map for all of these terms. And that was my elaboration. Thank you for watching.